So hi, I'm Robert Cluley. I am a data science manager at MailChimp, who, if you don't know, is a sort of a marketing platform, multi-channel now, marketing platform for small businesses, small, medium-sized businesses. And we are upstairs at Pont City Market. And I used to be a professor of neuroscience and math at Georgia State University, up until recently, so I have a research background.
My name's Tony Fast. I work at Bastille Analytics. We do Internet of Things security. We make hardware, and I do data science on the signals that we collect. Like Rob, I was an academic. I was a mechanical engineering and material science professor at Georgia Tech, and now now I'm here.
My name is James Chen. I'm a healthcare data scientist in Philips Wescentive, one of the Philips healthcare branch located in Florida. I've been Wescentive for 1 year, so I think I'm kind of rookie compared to these two senior guys. Yeah.
We both just left academia recently.
Hi, everyone. My name is Damiela Sissi. I currently work as an associate data scientist at 360i. It's a digital marketing and advertising agency. Yeah, that's it.
Dami's old. Oh, okay.
Just a little bit.
And plus, Dami is a recent graduate of General Assembly's data science program.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
All right, so we'll start out with our planned questions and keep the structure pretty formal. Feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions or want to interject and follow up on with additional questions, and then we'll save time at the end to ask all of your probing questions that you brought with you. Can you not hear me?
Well, the mics are only for the recording, so we can try to speak up. But yeah, there's no amplification.
We're too loud or not loud enough?
No, it's good, but I think he did.
Okay. Yeah, I've never been told to speak up.
The acoustics in here are not good.
Yeah. Also, feel free to shout out if you need a volume change or a refill of beer.
Yeah, there's another part over there.
There is another.
It's all right. I don't
Let's see. All right, finding my questions.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so let's start out from left to right. I think I'll just go ahead and ask. We'll start with Rob and Tony. Rob, you first. Define what makes a data scientist and what a data scientist does.
Okay, those are two big questions. Let me ask, how many people think they have a clue what data science is already? Okay, good. You're right. So it's a difficult field. There's not a lot of definition right now, and it's so young that it's really hard to pin down. So I'm not going to try to state something that is so sort of concrete and definitive, because I just don't think that's the way that this field is right now. What I would say about data science, coming from academia as a scientist, is that data science isn't even really a thing, or it shouldn't be a thing in one particular sense. I think that you do work that requires the use of data in a scientific application of the scientific method. Then you're applying good practices involving data to solve actual problems. There's some theory of data science as a standalone subject, but oftentimes that comes already from the theory of artificial intelligence, computer science, psychology, you name it, statistics and so forth. Those things already exist and have existed for a long time. So it's hard to say that it's even really a real thing in that sense. And I like to, I prefer people to think about I want to solve a certain kind of problems using data in an intelligent way that draws from these existing disciplines, and not to worry too much about precisely how to define what data science is right now.
That's a good one. Tony, how about you?
You danced around that one real well.
Now for the real answer.
Can I do a hand raising one? Does anybody here use Excel? Awesome. Of those people, did you raise your hand when Rob asked if you considered yourself a data scientist? Who raised their hand who uses Excel and considers himself a data scientist? Right on. We deal with a lot of data, but ultimately the goal of science in general is to understand things better than we did before. And in data science, that requires using data. The people who have been doing data science effectively for a really long time have been doing stuff with Excel. They've been doing stuff with Google Sheets. They've been doing stuff with Word documents and Google documents where you can share information to other people. The importance of data science is being able to take a complicated piece of information that maybe only you understand and responsibly communicate that to people who can make actionable decisions on it. Data science is a really human problem. It's not a technical problem. And if you consider it to be a technical problem, you're going to be in for some surprising situations when it becomes human. When the data that you work with becomes whether somebody gets to keep their job or not, whether we can find a criminal, whether we can discover what you want to buy next. Ultimately, we're using data to communicate stuff to people. And I'm not going to put a label on data science either, except that science is a really human thing. It's a thing that's made humans better for centuries, and now we just have more data to do it with. So that's what I think of data science.
That was good. Yeah, I thought about this question throughout the day-to-day, and I thought defining a data scientist is sort of similar to the conundrum of defining big data. And I thought about the 3 V's, the volume, velocity, variety, and how maybe that is sort of part of what makes or differentiates a data scientist and a data analyst, which leads me to my next question.
Can we go with the V's real quick? Because I believe in the 5 V's.
Okay.
I believe in the 5.
Let's hear them.
So there's volume, there's velocity, and there's variety. These are all things that computers deal with. But the next ones in that iteration are the veracity of the data. So what's the truth of it? And then what's the value of it? And when you get beyond the computer part of these things, the value and the truth of this are communicated to people and they're not communicated to humans. I'm going to really drive this point home.
No, I agree.
No, you're right. It's the nature of the data. So James, we'll segue into, this is a nice segue into, how is a data scientist different from a data analyst?
So, anybody start looking for a job for data scientists? Or anybody interested?
All of you
for
better
a job?
have.
Yeah, because when I start looking for a job, LinkedIn kind of cannot figure it out because I type data scientist, but give me all the data analyst. And so I start talking to people, what's the difference between these two? It's very, very hard to answer. In our company, we have data analysts, we have data scientists. So after I joined the company, I start thinking, okay, they have different pay, that's one factor. And the second is, whatever human cannot use machine to solve something, then that belongs to data science's job. So a data analyst, you can use Excel and you can write a very complicated equation, that's fine. But if there is a bunch of data, you give it to data analysts. The data analyst said, oh no, I cannot do this. Then that becomes to the data scientist's job. So I would say a data science is doing a more automation in an intelligent way.
Tommy, how about you?
It's a really hard question.
It is a hard question.
I think being a data analyst is part of being a data scientist. I think with a data science, being a data science, you take a step further, the storytelling aspects of it, you know, the human part that Tony was talking about, the value that you're adding, being able to take something that is so complex and be able to explain it to a non-technical audience in a way that they can understand. Because at the end of the day, this whole big data, data scientist or data science and stuff it doesn't make any sense if the rest of the world doesn't understand it. And I think that's what sets apart a data scientist from just an analyst. A data scientist is an analyst, but I don't think a data analyst is a data scientist.
Yeah.
Right.
Speak a little bit louder.
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 There are some seats up front too.
Yeah, there's some seats up front. Sorry, we're gonna shuffle for a minute.
Did you guys hear me?
In the back row, it's your responsibility. If you at any point can't hear, you can yell at them or make a funny face.
Yeah.
You want.
Just yell and say we can't hear you.
And should we close this door right here once we do fill up the front row?
Question. You asked about data scientists and analysts. I mean, you addressed that, but I was wondering data scientists versus statisticians.
Well, with statisticians, I don't think there's a computer science aspect. I don't know if statisticians are really good at the coding aspects of it. I have a background in statistics, but I still had to take the General Assembly course to understand just how to code in Python. I was familiar with R, but not every statistician is. It's usually Stata or MATLAB or SPSS. Where you take it to a further level, you need some sort of computer science background.
If I can follow up on that, I think there's some resonance with the sort of startup culture that we have where everyone is expected to do everything now. And while a traditional statistician many decades ago was probably sort of in their own office as part of a much bigger machine doing a relatively small aspect, there's a lot more cases now where one or very small number of individuals have to be totally responsible for the whole vertical stack of even bringing in the data before you can work with it. And so that's kind of created this need, which is why we're talking about data science as if it was a real, area of science because of that. So I think that's the main aspect that differentiates the statistics.
Well, and to this statistician question, it hints at a larger question of what's the role of theory and what's the role of mathematics in data science. And when you're dealing with data at scale and sampling theories and statistics and important mathematical rigor that's existed for centuries, you need those tools to work with data at scale. And theory is working its way into the code bases. It's like the good theory's been validated by the software that we can use in an open source ecosystem. When you think about Spark and Python and all of these tools like scikit-learn and Spark ML and all of those things, they're heavily cited research documents. So theory and understanding math, if you think about data science as a spectrum between data and science, where science is more mathematics-based and the data part's more computational-based. Like there's a continuum across all of those things where theory and software are welcomed equally in the data science process.
Dami, I like what you said about a data scientist is still a data analyst, because I know you find yourself in a more sophisticated practice and you forget that you're still responsible for the ETL process and the data munging and the less attractive data analyst tasks. So I know I started out as a data analyst outside of college, and I think when I realized I had sort of reached the end of my analyst-only journey was when I needed more. I needed to know how to do more to do more. So that brings me to my next question. We'll start with you, Rob. What tools do data scientists use, and what languages?
Here go the holy wars.
What did you learn once you were no longer an analyst?
Well, the thing is, for a start, I never was an analyst as such, but because I short-circuited by being an academic for so long.
Skip that
But
grade.
I mean, the thing is that you can essentially use any tools you like. I mean, as we've already seen, you can effectively do a lot of stuff in Excel and achieve amazing things with it. I mean, you don't do anything numerical in it unless you're insane, but that requires any precision. But otherwise, Excel is a perfectly good tool. So I'm not fussed about using tools as a main filter for what makes good data science, but I think that there's a lot of push for, as Tony mentioned, and I'm totally on board with it, the communication and sharing aspects of data. And so tools that tend to have a history of being easily used by many people, and that's often then going to be either free and or open source tools. That contributes an awful lot in general to that process of attempting to communicate and share to the max. So, I mean, I'm a Python guy, always have been, but there's, Python and R tend to be the good modern open source and free systems within which most people tend to do any kind of analysis at scale that involves also working with messy data and things that aren't well defined. Beyond that, you have an awful lot of traditional tools like SAS and SPSS and different kinds of things that are not free usually, and really I think it's gonna be different at every company and in every situation, and you just have to feel out what is a good fit with you, and hopefully you market yourself accordingly and choose according to where you feel your heart is in terms of the kinds of things you want to work with. Tony,
how about you? Spark?
Not this week. If you need to use a hammer to do data science, use a hammer. If you need to jump out of an airplane to do data science, jump out of an airplane. To use whatever tools are necessary for you to become a better data scientist. The technology, you are not going to have a choice about the technology that you use. If you get accepted at a job, there's a code base that already exists. You got to use that shit whether you like it or not. And it sucks. Now, that's the crappy part. That's the bad news. But the good news is that the social contract that your company signs to use this technology is how people talk at your company, right? So the technology that you use is not necessarily about how you're going to implement stuff, but the technology that you use is really framing the questions and the communications that you're going to have with the people that you work with. In a data science stack, you need a data analyst, you need a data scientist, you need a CMO, you need a CFO, you need a CTO, you need managers, you need all of these people. And they are using Word documents at the C-suites, and their data might be a percentage number that came from millions of rows of data, and that trickled up through 4 or 5 communication channels. There are a lot of tools to do data science with. The one suggestion that I leave you with is have an interpreted language in your back pocket. Use R, use Python, use Julia, and then also know a presentation framework, know a way to share your code. So use GitHub, use some kind of static web pages, use some kind of social media, use some kind of thing that makes data. So as a data scientist, you ingest data, and your responsibility is to make data on the outset of it. So use tools, and they're not necessarily computing tools. They might be more social tools, because if your idea is really worthwhile, then it'll get out there.
That's good. James?
Well, it really depends on, are you a pure data science or not? So if you are if you're lucky, you're pure data science, for example, in a big company, you really work on the model. You don't need really worry too much about what language you're using. So you can pick MATLAB, you can use R and use Python and do the prototyping. So your job is just prove the model it works.
James, what is a pure data scientist?
Pure data science, you don't need to worry about how clean your data is. You don't need to worry about the software.
That sounds ironic.
You go ahead and read the article and understand the most state-of-the-art models and figure out what is the best model in the world that can apply to your company's question and the data. And I don't believe anybody belongs to that kind of role right now. That is my dream job. So if somebody can help me to clean up the data and pull the data and put in my table, okay, this is the data, let's train it. And if I can build my prototype and I tell the software engineer and say, okay, this is my model, go ahead and build an API. and put into our company's software. That would be the dream job. But if yes, that's why I say, if you really love the data science, you really want to just work on the modeling, which is I really prefer everybody do so. Do whatever language you want. I used MATLAB when I was a student, but when I started my career, because our company, they use Python, we need to build API. That's why I started learning Python, which is also a very powerful language. That doesn't matter. But turns out only 5-10% of my time doing research. All other things are cleaning up the data. Data engineer, I'm 50% data engineer, 40% software engineer, only 10% data scientist. So it really depends on, are you really a data scientist now?
Yeah, we wind up doing a lot of data engineering at these jobs. It's not data science.
Yeah. Well,
Distinction?
uh-huh.
What was the distinction there? Because I've heard that interviews before also. Professor Ryan distinguished between data. What does that mean?
I'm sorry?
What does that mean? The difference between a data scientist and a data engineer?
Uh-huh.
So a data engineer has dirty data, it's nested, it's got weird structures to it, and it might not be useful in science.
Unpure.
Well, it's also more operational. It's often more operational, so they're often the people who are more responsible for moving data from place to place or to bring it together in a certain way to deliver it to somewhere. It's not necessarily that they are also the people who end up analyzing it. There are jobs specifically just for people who understand how to move data around and process it in these low-level ways, just to do the extract, transform, load process and related issues.
Yeah, a lot of times the data is used for production and it's used for research. So there's two different intents with those things, like getting data onto a website versus getting data into a scientist's hands. The production is usually more important, so like shimming data so that you can actually do something with it is an exhausting process.
And I feel like what I'm hearing and what I agree with is that it sort of depends on the task at hand and what you're trying to accomplish. Dami, what's your favorite part about being a data scientist?
Oh, wow. I've been doing it for just such a short period of time. I really like the storytelling part. I like coming up with, a problem, finding a solution to it and explaining the entire process. I think it's the end product I really like best. The fact that, you've come up with something that is solving a really big problem to whoever, relatively. Could be huge for me and really doesn't matter to you, but just that process.
So what's your end products look like? Are they graphs or they generally what are they?
Well, in the past, before my job now, I was at GA, and we just had weekly projects where we would have, the data was usually clean for us, but for my capstone, I had to find the data for myself and come up with a topic, and that was kind of the part I liked, looking for something I wanted to work on and building a model for it. And the end product was just a presentation. But in a real life job, sometimes you don't get to that end part where you're presenting. Sometimes it's the business intelligence departments that would go ahead and take whatever it is you've done and showcase it, or have some sort of like a dashboard or a website that you could click and your model is doing stuff on the back end. So sometimes it's not you that gets to do that, but if it's in a classroom setting, your end product is going to be a presentation of your model, of your problem, how you approach solving it, the models you used, your future work, kind of thing.
So it could be an API for your model, or it could be, so that's what it's.
I'm sorry?
So in your real work, what is usually the end deliverable?
Well, the end product is for the client. It's basically you're trying to optimize how the client is spending their money for marketing and try and improve their return on investments, get the highest return on investment possible based on how much money they allocated to each division for marketing, right? And you're just like forecasting. At the end of the day, it's going to be a table that has how much money should be spent. So really, I don't think that answer is very specific to any. I don't think it's general. I think it's specific to each company.
Really quickly, I want to rewind, and can we just go down the panel and each panelist can give us a quick blurb about what you're doing, where you work, and what you currently do in your role. I just realized as Dami's talking that not everyone knows that she's working on ROIs. And so let's start with you, Rob.
Well, I'm a manager as well as being a data scientist, so that really throws a spanner in the works. So when I'm not managing my team, who are also sort of data analysts or researchers, we're trying to answer questions within the company about what our users are doing, so that we can learn and pass back insights about them back to them, like in aggregate. Because we have lots of small businesses who don't know very much about their market, or they have small user bases, so if they try to do statistics, it wouldn't necessarily be very clear what they might learn from that. We try to develop insights en masse over certain segments that our users might belong to, and then feed that back. So we're creating reports and we're generating insights either sort of spontaneously ad hoc or based on certain kinds of feedback or questions that we get, sometimes from marketing, sometimes from the product development, that are driving the questions that we hope to turn into insights for our users in our business, which, as I said, is essentially, it's for businesses to do their own marketing with.
Can you elaborate on like what are the types of questions you're addressing? Like, give us a couple examples.
I mean, it can be mundane, everyday, simple things like find all the users in Canada who meet certain basic requirements, like they use e-commerce on their website, and like check off some simple filters like that. But it can also be sourcing people who are power users of features, right? So we surface the best possible use cases of what we've developed to showcase, yes, this is a prime example of how we wanted this feature to be used, and here are some great people who use it. And then we may also do some statistics on those folk and say, we find that people who use this feature more in this way get some return on investment different to those who do not. That's the sort of rough,
So is there any pipeline approach you take right from collecting data to delivery, or?
It's more complicated than I could possibly even get into. That we have a pipeline. We have multiple layers of data work at our company because we have so much data. We have a whole staff of data engineers who are just involved with the basics of moving the data around to send emails and run campaigns and stuff. And then we have layers of infrastructure above that involve analytics and stuff like that.
How many emails y'all send on Cyber Monday?
I can't even keep. Yes, I am, but I can't even remember the number. It's like
1.4 billion.
We went over 1 billion this year.
Cyber Monday was 1.4.
So we have just an extraordinarily high amount of demand on our servers at any given point. And so there's a whole staff of people just dealing with that aspect before you even get to the analytics. So there are multiple layers, and these layers may exist in other companies in smaller ways, but they're often more integrated in smaller companies, whereas ours have evolved to the point where they've actually become quite siloed because of the scale that we're working at.
So what does your raw data look like generally?
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's so much. We have marketing data, we have analytic tracking data.
Text or unstructured?
We certainly have some of that. We have form data about customer feedback. We have half of our company is customer support. Like literally about 50% of our staff are customer support. So they generate lots of tickets, and we analyze the tickets and understand whether they're doing well, what features are being brought up in our support that might highlight a problem that we have with a feature. And there's lots of plain text that we have to deal with. Some of it's semi-structured, some of it's sort of automatically processed from plain text, and then we have to do more with it. Then there's all of the actual email data, and that's mostly in SQL for various reasons, but we also have a pipeline system underneath all of that. It gets very super complicated.
And he'll be around afterwards
Yeah.
for hours.
No.
So I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
As long as the beer flows.
Tony, your turn.
I yell at computers all day. We done?
All right, James.
At Bastille, we make hardware, which is really cool. It's really interesting to make a tangible product. Before that, I worked at Continuum Analytics, the makers of Anaconda. So if any of y'all use that as your computing environment, that's where I was before. So now working in hardware, which is really cool because you're selling a real product. And the folks at my company are experts in software-defined radio. So they write software that makes radio frequencies and radio signals like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and LTE and all of the cell bands and the Wi-Fi bands and communication bands that you have. So our software detects all of those signals that a phone might be beaconing in a building. So we can track if somebody's in a building based on their device. We can look at multiple devices and understand whether somebody's inside or outside of a building. And we deploy these technologies in places that need some kind of digital security. And I'm not going to depress you into how insecure your lives are. But one thing I will tell you is that right now, if your phone has been connected to a Wi-Fi network before, it's beaconing for it right now. Okay? So if you've been to LA, if you've been to Chicago, if you've been to New York, I know where the hell you've been. I might not know who you are, but if I ever identify you, I could know. And be aware of the data that you ingest, so you are better aware of the data that you make.
So Tony knows where you live. James, how about you?
I'm a healthcare data scientist, so
And speak up. The acoustics are a little worse over there. So Dami and I might be making that up. Maybe you guys are just quieter. Dami and James, can you guys speak up a little?
Shout. Okay.
But James. Yeah.
Okay, finish. Okay. I'm a healthcare data science. When I was a PhD in Georgia Tech, I've been doing the research on building machine learning models using healthcare data. So I've been working in this kind of data industry for many years. Healthcare is a really messy topic. We can have like 5-hour other panel talk about healthcare in the US. It's very messy, but my dream is apply data scientists to help people's quality of care. It's very hard, but I am working in the Philips World Incentive. So it's a population health management company. So the idea is, for example, just imagine that there are 10 different wards, software in the ward, okay? So each doctor are using different word. And one day, if the governor say, everybody should use one word. So there is another company coming out like us. We can aggregate all different words formats, so they can import their different word version into our aggregate platform. So after the data has been aggregated, what we can do, like we currently have 13 million patient data. Okay, we already can get everybody's data, but what? Next is the data science coming in. We want to analyze the patient across different customer, across different doctor, and say, okay, today you are, in the past 5 months, you have been diagnosed in this, blah, 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 and you are taking medicine. So what's going to do, what kind of care management plan I can apply to this patient specifically? So it's more on the predictive things. And also, so there are a lot of topics actually. A lot of topics we in the industry, it's very hard. It's very hard to worry about the data. You always have a bunch of data, but the thing is how you organize that, how you process that. That's the hard thing, and that's my job. So I'm the first data science in the company. I'm also like an educator of the data science because many people sometimes come, James, could you tell me a little bit more about logistic regression? I've been using this for 5 years, but I have no idea what is that. It happens all the time, right? So, well, don't worry about that because let's back to some of the question. All these data science model, they are built by statisticians. We just use that. But how you use that well is the art in the data sciences. So if we want to really be a good data science, don't say, oh, I don't really like math. Can I just jump out that statistician thing? No, you can use the tool well, but if you really want to use it very well, there is you have to learn a little bit statistics. So it's kind of answer multiple questions, but I'm a healthcare data science. And if you guys are interested in like healthcare, how people apply data science, machine learning, or even AI using the healthcare data, I hope I can help.
Do HIPAA regulations affect your job?
Nah, that's another job. I spend 10% of the time to comply in the HIPAA data science.
If we could hold your questions for a second, I want to get through this and make sure we hit on all the questions. But
Okay,
yeah,
so
right.
I'm an associate data scientist at 360i, like I said before. I started 3 weeks ago, actually, so I'm relatively new. Just saying that you guys should be careful with your questions. But basically what we do is we have clients that are trying to make themselves present online with search engines, Google, MSN, Yahoo, Bing. You know, when you click in, you type in a word, I don't know, a nice black dress, and Macy's comes up, you know. We are kind of behind that, trying to find out when and where our clients should bid, how much money they should be bidding. So we build models that would give us the best estimates for that. Yeah, aside from that, I'm really interested in, actually before even before taking the classes at GA, background in economics, and I didn't know what data science was. I didn't know that it was a thing. And I was really in love with it even before I knew what the name was, just playing with data and coming up with insights from it, mainly for developing countries. It's kind of an interest of mine. So if anybody's interested, we could talk, catch me outside, you know.
So what about the degrees though? Because you mentioned like the work that you're doing, but I was wondering what degrees you each had. I know PhD, the economics, but
I am a master's in economics from Vanderbilt University.
James?
I'm a PhD in electrical and computer engineering, Georgia Tech.
I have an undergraduate in ceramic engineering. Yes, I've made a toilet. And I have a PhD in material science and engineering.
I have a PhD in applied math and an undergrad in computer science and some other stuff.
So, you're talking about data engineering and building models and all that. So, what proportion of your day-to-day activities is involved in performance, making incremental changes to your models just to make them quicker, or is that something that falls under the beat toward software engineers control?
I think it's a constant thing. Just from what I've been working on for the past couple of weeks, you're always trying to improve your model. Clients is always asking for something different. We are a company that we're always talking to our clients on a day-to-day basis. So you have to find a way to improve the model. If it's not working, you're going to try and see it fail and then try again. So it's part of the job. Actually, it's majority of the job.
Do you guys do real-time ad bidding?
Are you guys working at
Yes,
that speed?
yes.
So that's a really crazy problem.
Yeah, it is.
That's a really crazy problem.
Yeah, it is.
So from hearing what we're all doing, it's pretty clear that data science is sort of spread across different industries and applications. So how does one who is aspiring to be a data scientist break into this type of career? Rob, I'll start with you.
Okay. I think community is the biggest thing that you could be considering.
Data Science Atlanta.
Right. Yeah. So
Data Science Atlanta.
You're spoiled. You're actually spoiled for choice right now. There are several meetups and other organizations around Atlanta that provide some ways for you to meet other data scientists, both in your position, because I'm sure you all have different kinds of situations, and also in our positions, which are also quite diverse, as you can see. So those, I think, are probably the best tools to jump into. Meet people, learn about what they do, get involved in something in the community. If you have less experience and you're worried about having enough experience to apply for jobs, try to do something on the side as a little side hustle and get involved in some kind of volunteering project or something that involves deliverables that are something you can publish. Even if it's just on your GitHub page or on a static website or a WordPress site or blog, show off something that you've done and are proud of. It doesn't have to be the biggest deal. I just employed, just took on a guy a few months ago whose main experience was having done some data science for a charity that involves sending underwear to people in the mail, and then people run around, they go on like a short, I forget whether it's 5K or something like that, but they go on a 5K charity run in their underwear. Right? And it's awesome, it's totally awesome.
He employed a streaker.
Yeah, it's sort of like a...
It's a facilitator.
Right. That's American level streaking, where you still have on underwear. I had to get some shade in there somewhere. So this, this is someone who didn't have, he's still wanting to do night school for computer science, but he had a range of talents and showed off what he had done in terms of presentation and skills of gathering data and solving problems through some side work that he had done. And that was a really awesome aspect to his application, among obviously other characteristics, but those are things that can help you to stand out. And that's my main sort of takeaway about moving forward.
I completely agree. I think with all the different applications and different languages, I think the best thing you can bring to a potential employer is the willingness to learn and the ability to learn and curiosity. Mm-hmm. Tony?
Who's curious? Who's here because they're curious about a problem? Like, who here has a data set that they'd love to visualize or love to model? Is there anybody here who has a desire for that? Hell yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Are you guys working towards it right now? Yeah. What are some of the since we've been interviewed this whole time, what are some of the ways that you guys are like working towards solving your data science problems?
I'm using logistic regression.
Cool.
Not to actually visualize it, but just to come up with the best model that would answer the 4 research questions on. Sure.
Awesome. Doing some visualization, doing some modeling. Anybody else? Wait.
We have this graph lab using linear regressions and all that to predict.
Great. Great. Awesome. Yeah. What do you got?
I just recently getting acquainted with Ignition 1, which is where I pull my data source from, and I've been using a lot of Excel. And you said actually way too much Excel. I know too many shortcuts at this point.
People who are good in Excel work faster than I can program any day. Any day. My code prediction is not as quick as what you guys can do in Excel. But the point of all of this is that there's a desire to solve something. There's a desire to solve a problem. There's a desire to approach a challenge. And if you want to break into data science, you have to really keep at that desire and keep at that want for doing this. Because chances are the problem that you want to solve right now, you're ill-equipped to solve it. Because you would have solved it if you were equipped for it. So the best thing that you can do to become a data scientist is practice as hard as you can. Good things come to those who work really frigging hard while they wait. And data science is the one place where if you have a desire to be a data scientist, you can be something else while becoming that. You don't have to make a massive, massive life change. Some of us might, I had to, but some people might be able to do their job and also become a data scientist and become more effective with their work. The one thing that I suggest is desire and passion and making sure that you understand that you want to do this. If you work as a data scientist, you have to run in front of a moving vehicle so you don't get hit. You are working on bleeding edge technologies. The documentation that you might have used today or last week might have changed already, right? Like this world is not easy to keep up with. So learning to keep up with the pace of innovation, keep up with the pace of technology, and also keeping up with the pace of your community. Vet yourself off of the community. Vet yourself off of the people that you work with, and eventually you'll get a job in data science. All of us are using data in our day-to-day jobs. Even people who might not consider themselves a data analyst, people who look at social media, people who do community management, people who do organizing events, they are using real data. And it's just a matter of learning how to use data better. And the more ways that you know how to use data, the better equipped you are to get a job when that interview comes. Be prepared for your interviews.
Very true, Tony. I know my first job, or my first real job, was when I did the job sort of before it was my job. I think that's what I hear you saying is, do the job before it's your job, and then it becomes your job. Then you write out your job description, and you bring it to them, and you say, this is what I do, and this is what it's called.
And also be careful what you wish for, because when your hobby becomes your job, there's a crazy inversion in life.
And that's a meetup for a different day. James, how about you?
So there are tons of opportunity you can take to become a data scientist. You can go to school and take a data science degree. You can go to online, there are hundreds of data science degree over there. You can register a Kaggle account and start solving some problem tonight. There are a lot of things. My suggestion is, if you want to become a data scientist, do it now. You can do it right now. Like Kaggle, register, you can download the data set and write your code. Okay, and call some package, scikit-learn, apply your model on the data, and get the, for example, accuracy. Some of the accuracy. That's your baseline. That's your baseline. So your job is going to improve it. And then, okay, I apply logistic regression. Okay, I just call scikit-learn. Probably 2 lines over there. But tomorrow, after you got your accuracy, go ahead and improve it. That becomes a really data science job. You start learning the logistic regression. There are a lot of parameters you can try. And how did you use the parameter based on the data? Different data might have totally different set of parameters, even using logistic regression. That is the time you are learning, because you are having a real data and you are solving a real problem. And then you have a model. So your job is going to learn the data and also the model. You have to understand your data, and then you have to understand your model. So how to tune your model to improve your accuracy. Why there are some guys on the Kaggle that can achieve 99% accuracy, but why I'm only 80%? All right. So go ahead and read some article, read some book, and improve that, and you will become a data scientist in few months, I believe so. And so a lot of things I would not say I'm a data scientist. We have to say we are data scientists of something. You have to use data science to solve something. Unless you solve something, it's nothing, all right? You cannot just learn data science, and I'm learning data science. I have to solve something. For we have human trafficking project using data science model to solve to detect the human trafficking activities.
Maximize return on capital.
Sorry?
They're just objective functions minus 1.
Exactly. Yeah. So the data science itself is very easy to understand. Okay. The concept is very easy to understand, but how you really apply the data science to solve a problem given a data set. That's really the art.
So knowing what questions to ask. Knowing what questions to ask. Yeah. I think I've been kind of surprised by. I constantly feel like an imposter programmer and developer, but because the packages are so enabling, once you get in there, you can really hack your way through just about anything. But I think it sort of falls back on asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Dami?
He mentioned Kaggle. Does anybody know what Kaggle is? Is anybody not aware of what Kaggle is? It's basically this website that has data and a challenge, a problem for you to solve. And a bunch of people all over the world are doing it. You have some timeline. You don't have to do it within the timeline. If you want to win the cash prize or whatever freebies they're giving you, maybe you want to meet the timeline. But basically, it's a good way to improve yourself as a data scientist. When you're talking about accuracy score, it's what other people are submitting. So based on whatever requirements that they want, if it's the accuracy score or the area under the curve or whatever, they're going to rank it based on whatever teams or individuals that submit. And it's not necessarily, for me, it wasn't necessarily about winning. It was more about learning from what other people are doing. There's a forum, they ask questions. It's a really cool spot, especially, I don't know, when I moved to Atlanta, I thought it would be great to go for hackathons, but I feel like a lot of hackathons are more for web developers and UX designers. I think Kaggle is kind of a space, like a hackathon space for data scientists.
Dami, where does someone start on Kaggle?
Just sign up, I guess.
Sign up and then?
www.kaggle.com, sign up. It's really, really self-explanatory. I think you don't need a GitHub, actually. You don't need one. They actually have broken down the challenges to different levels for beginners, intermediates, and the kind of people that want to go into really, really complex models. There are some challenges that are just like, there's a Titanic data that would take you if you're learning, it will take you a weekend to kind of understand what's going on. You're trying to build a classification model, sort of thing. Yeah, that
was sufficient, I think.
Yeah, that was just on a side note, but.
I wanted to follow up on that because I think, especially if you're new to the area, there's very different kinds of data science career. And Kaggle represents one kind of extreme even, that is not necessarily representative of many other kinds of data science career work. I mean, sort of, as I was saying earlier with our business in terms of the way it's structured, we have teams that do modeling and build out production scale models, and I'm pretty sure that those do involve a lot of the same kinds of things that we're referring to in Kaggle. But there's an awful lot more of a market out there right now, in my opinion, for the kind of grungy data science that is a lot less about modeling and a lot more about achieving basic statistics and reporting when faced with very uncertain or messy data. And Kaggle will not, in my opinion, answer that question. And I think that market is way bigger. And it's technically more easy to learn how to do that stuff. And a colleague of mine, we have our own analyst challenge that we send to recruits. But one that's public right now, which is actually quite similar that you might look into, has just been published on a blog by Wikipedia. Wikipedia is backfilling a data science position, and they wrote a blog in just the last month, I think it's this year, about how they try to hire a data scientist, and they made a GitHub repo out of the challenge they set. And you'll find it's a very different kind of flavor to a Kaggle challenge, and it's much more about this kind of, I hate to use the word soft, because it's actually really hard, but it's what we traditionally call softer skills associated with communication and wrangling the data and manipulating it to get it into a place that you can make sense of a data set. And you're only doing basic statistics at the end, but getting to that point is hard. So I just want to make that distinction clear.
Another thing I wanted to say was sometimes it could be overwhelming for me getting into transitioning. I finished right from graduate school and just started this. So it wasn't a huge career change for me or anything, but it was overwhelming with so many tools that were available, and somebody's doing this really cool thing and you feel you're not there yet. The approach, honestly, it's so easy. It's one step at a time. What is your problem? What are you trying to solve? How can I solve it? Go step by step. And I'm a visual person, so I would actually draw a map in my book to see kind of what I'm trying to do. And then you can start doing research. There's a lot of academic paper out there to see what you want, just to see how you can approach your problem. And the thing is, honestly, Google is your friend. It really is your friend. Google anything, whatever question that you feel would be stupid to ask somebody else that would expect you to know. Just Google it. There are forums out there, but don't overwhelm yourself with there are new technologies coming in every day, and yeah, you want to, get acquainted with them, but start really small and don't bite too much. Don't bite more than you can chew.
Dr. Cooley, how do you access that challenge, I guess?
It's on their website, I think, because I can't recall it. Well, I could bring out my phone in a minute and let you know.
Wikipedia has a data science group, and so does Airbnb. Those are two of the best places for resources.
Pretty sure if you Googled the Wikipedia on their blog, you would find it. I might be able to pull it up in a few minutes and let you know.
So what do you say, Wikipedia and what's
Airbnb has a really good open data science thing. Who's here because they think data science is sexy? Yeah. Oh, all the sex in the room. There's nothing sexy about digging ditches in high waders, right? Like a lot of this job is digging ditches. Eventually, you solve a problem, and you really love the fact that you solved the problem, and you're really happy about that day. But like a lot of this is ditch digging. A lot of this is hope.
And writing about it.
And writing about it, yeah. Writing about the ditch that you dug, writing about the mud that's on your nose. It's difficult at times, but the hard is what makes it very good, isn't it?
Please learn documentation. Like on top of all the other technologies people will keep throwing at you to learn, and all of the math and everything. For goodness sake, we're talking about all this sharing and communication. Please learn how to document stuff, and that's including tools like Markdown, using GitHub, using sharing tools and things that render. Obviously, that includes some visualization stuff, but even also project management, right? Learn how to organize your time and be able to audit your own time. So learn some processes. This is you can get a lot from the software development process about how do I structure my time, how do I show that I've actually been doing work, given that this can be exploratory and go to dead ends. It's like, well, look, I've made notes about how I structured my time so that, when something fails, there's documentation that I was still working and not just blowing it off, right? So those time management tools are as essential in our area as they are in regular software development. But I feel like we fall through the cracks because we're not a traditional area where there's certification for trainings, and yet I think many of the same practices that are very, very important in software development, as well as in math and so forth, are important here too. So let's throw that in as well.
Markdown, a document, or do they come with a place? Do they come with a template of markdowns and ask to fill it, or is it how is it?
Not usually. No, they could.
GitHub is using pull requests.
For more specific questions, let's save them until the very end. I want to make sure we get through our more general questions. No, I know. I'm right there with you. So, elevator pitch time, because I want to breeze through this next one, but I still think it's important. Your 15-second pitch. What employers are looking for in hiring a data scientist? Who wants to start?
All I know is I don't know what employers are looking for, but it took me a while. It was a long process for me, transitioning, finding a job. And one thing I learned is you can't bullshit your way into the job. There's some jobs that you go for and you're a good talker, you know how to, they're going to ask you tough questions. It's very technical. You need to know your stuff. You need to, like you said, you can't be a data scientist and not like math. They're going to ask you some statistics questions, some calculus questions, some logic questions, and you really need to prepare for it, even probably like 3 times as hard, 3 times harder than you would for another job. That's one thing that I learned.
That's good, Tommy.
Very, very technical interview, aside from, oh my gosh, she's such a nice person. They don't give a shit. You need to be able to show your work. I mean, I am the one looking for a job, and I think the technical skills are very important to show. You need to have a good balance of both of them, I guess. Being able to show. Sometimes they'll make you write a code out. You don't have your computer to autocorrect, or, oh my gosh, is this the right syntax and stuff? They make you write that stuff out. Ask you really tough questions.
I like your no BS statement though,
really
because
is.
I think so often it's so easy to come into an interview and think you have to know everything. But as long as you know your stuff, it's okay to not know everything.
And don't put anything in your resume that you cannot defend. You should be able to defend every single thing in your resume because they're going to ask you about it.
By 85%. Just kidding. James?
All right. Why I'm hiring data scientists?
You're doing your elevator pitch
Okay.
for what an employer is looking for in a data scientist.
So if you feel you're paying too much medical insurance premium, you can join us. If you really like to talk to data and you really want to understand the data and helping people to improve their quality of life.
James, can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
if you really like to talk to data, I mean really talk to, because data scientists, your first job is to understand your data. If you don't understand your data, you have nothing to do about data science. So you want to understand your data and solve our current healthcare environment. That's a huge problem right now in our country. So join us.
That was good. Tony? I don't remember what the question is. You don't remember? No. What are employers looking for?
I don't know. Be yourself.
Yeah, I like that.
Be yourself. If you look at what's going on the internet and you try and be all those other people, they already took your job. Right? So be yourself. And if you take the advice that we've made earlier, where practice and practice and practice until you get the opportunity to be yourself, you'll be prepared. So just be yourself. Don't bullshit. Don't lie to me. I'm too smart to see through, to miss these lies. And if you've gotten past me, well, you got a job. That's fine. But be yourself.
So I like that too. I like the no BS part. I want you to remember you don't have to be good at everything, just be good at something. Mm-hmm. Accentuate the something, show the potential in everything else. Make sure you're a good cultural fit with where you're heading and in terms of what you're interested in doing. Make sure you understand the difference between things like a data engineer versus, analyst and so forth, so you're targeting the right positions because there's so many different kinds. Just understanding the landscape will allow you to filter down the right jobs to apply to. Even if it's still competitive, you'll be wasting your time applying for jobs that don't even apply to you if you don't understand what the different aspects mean. So just having a generalist knowledge of that stuff will help a lot. But we definitely look for people who have potential. So do not think that we're looking for people who are unicorns in these, in all areas. That's absolutely not what we care about. And that's where the BS comes in, because if you try to pretend that you do already know everything, we, as Tony said, will discover it really quickly. And that is way worse than humility. What I care about when I am sort of vetting someone, I want to see their process, so be very humble and open about the way in which you're thinking and the way that you're processing things. Because on a team, everyone's making mistakes, including myself, all the time, and it's very busy, right? What matters is that we're communicating about it well enough that everything's clear, and if we mess something up, other people are able to catch it, and everything can be friendly and it can be fixed before you get too far. People who are too defensive or too closed and want to show off or think that they can't show any imperfections are going to make huge mistakes when these mistakes build up privately and then they come out later. So don't be that person. Be humble about your mistakes and share and express and document. And that is very valuable to me when I'm
I love that, Rob.
I just wanted to add one more thing, just with the job search. Sometimes some companies don't know the difference between a data scientist and a data analyst and a data engineer. Go the extra mile and look at the job description, because sometimes the title is not a data scientist, but the role is what you probably want to do. So just to keep that in mind.
Thank you, Dami. I like that Rob mentioned that it's tempting to try to prepare yourself to be this unicorn of sorts that knows everything. And I think that's sort of a paralyzing step in getting into this sort of career, is that you feel like you'd have to know everything, and then it's very paralyzing because nobody knows everything. So I would cite that as one of the biggest challenges for someone breaking into data science, or whatever the name is of our tonight's session. What do you think the biggest challenges for aspiring data scientists emerging into this industry? Rob?
I think it's the fact that it's such a young discipline, and I'm so lucky that I have a longer history already from other disciplines that grounded me and helped me to have some wherewithal around, and really the BS detector around this subject, because I think there is a lot of nonsense talked about data science that newcomers are going to fall for because they're just naive, they don't, as you would be. So I think spending that time to understand that landscape is something that's not really mentioned explicitly as a skill, but I think that navigation of the language and the things that are being overhyped and how you fit into that landscape and what you really want. Also, know what you want. I mean, I think there's a danger of wanting to conform to these absurd perceptions that are being created by all the hype, and you forget to think about what it is you want. The more you express from yourself about as we've already resonated with, right, about the passion that you have for solving a problem, that's what will be ultimately more important than what you know already right now, or when you're graduating from a thing. Okay, so focus on those things, focus on yourself and your fit into a community of some kind, as much as you do on whatever tools and techniques you believe you need to learn to get a job.
And I think that's one of the greatest parts about data science is that it sort of applies to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So find a problem that you're passionate about, like the panelist was suggesting, and then apply data science to that. It applies to everything. It's everywhere. Tony, when you stepped out,
sorry, I've been drinking all the beer up here.
Our question, I know, we need like a waiter up here. Our question is, what's the most challenging part of someone emerging into data science?
You said it earlier, being an imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
First of all, who wants to get into this job field because they want to do something they care about and something that's fulfilling? Anybody here? Yeah, awesome. You're not going to get that at your job.
That's not true.
You're going to get it from yourself. That's the important thing. You're going to get it from yourself. The thing that I'm trying to iterate to you is the suggestion with this is that the job is not going to validate your work. You are going to validate your work. And being able to live your days as an artist, where your goal is to be better than you were the day before, and also validate it off of, cross-validation metrics and a confusion matrix and accuracy and stuff like that. But, data science allows you to understand your own self-improvement. And the hardest thing in data science is digging a ditch, pushing through, and actually having, created a connection between something. And being able to intermediately fulfill yourself during that process is the hardest thing. The self-doubt and introspection that comes along with solving a hard problem for other people that you care about and other people care about is a very difficult problem.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome is real in this type of technical field.
Yeah, because with 2 lines of code, you can use 10,000 lines of code from somebody else, and you're just like, am I really using it?
Yeah, everybody's copying code, by the way. James?
I would say keep your mind open. I would say never end learning new data science technology. So some of the mentee I have back to as a student, when I was a PhD student, even now I'm mentoring some junior data scientists, is one of the biggest challenge for them is to go and learn new models. So for example, like one of my students, he used random forest, which is quite a good classifier. So whatever project I ask, whatever question I ask, they always come out random forest. But why? Because some of the problem even is a regression. You cannot tell me it's a random forest. So keep open your mind. There is always a better model over there. You never know. So keep your mind open. So people talk about deep learning. Go ahead and learn it. Even though you have no data to apply that, but learn it. One day you will have a chance to apply deep learning. So open your mind, listen to the question, and then talk to the data, and then you come out with your model. So we usually, when we are in a company, we usually don't really come out a model at the very beginning. So we have about 1 month, a few weeks, go investigate what's the business question and what kind of data we can use. before we come out what's the model to solve the problem. And before we come out with the model, we really look and really learn a lot of different models we never know before. So yeah, that's my answer. Keep in mind, never afraid telling people I don't understand this. Mm-hmm. Say, oh, it's a new question to me. Give me some time, learn it. I'll give you an answer. But never come out an answer in the very beginning. Never say, okay, I understand this, so I'll apply this. So that's my question. Yeah.
That's good.
That's my answer.
Yeah, that's really good. Actually, for my interview, I think that was one of the things that, my interviewer had commented about, the fact that they asked me a question and I was like, I'm sorry, I have absolutely no idea. And I was so scared that, I wasn't going to get it, but it turned out great at the end of the day. But yeah. My answer to your question would be patience. The fact that it's a really long process, and sometimes it would appear really slow. Sometimes you don't know what your problem statement is. You don't know what problem you're trying to solve. Well, you think you do, and then you start, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's not the problem. Let's go back, figure out what the problem is. Let's understand the data. Let's use this model. It could take a long time, and it could be really frustrating. So just persevering and pushing on. Sometimes you want to get the answer really fast. Sometimes it's really hard because, there's this, you're trying to solve this, you want to have the results right away, or you think it's a week's project, but it's actually 6 months type of thing. Just getting ready for that and being prepared for that.
This is good. I think what I see the overarching theme being and a major challenge in emerging into data science is that you feel like you have to know everything. You never have to know everything, and I think that was sort of distilled from everyone's responses.
Well, I mean, if you look at the Venn diagram of data science, right?
Statistics.
I mean, usually in a Venn diagram, there's two circles that overlap, right? And you live in this space in between. But in data science, you live in this magical space between software being able to hack and being able to do math, and then you're supposed to be good at all three things.
Well, there's the knowledge, the
knowledge.
subject matter expertise is the third main wheel in that.
And one wheel of the wheel diagram, or the Venn diagram, is programming, which is encapsulated by how many languages? So it's...
Gives me a chance to slip out.
Yeah, this is a good one. There's so much in each circle, too. Programming. Programming.
Yeah. Oh, God, come on. And then right in the middle, right? That's not an easy thing to ask. It's a difficult place to be, is living in the middle.
Well, I think it's overwhelming because there's so much within each area.
Yeah. Well, maybe an expert, maybe dumb luck.
So I think that brings us into our next question. You don't have to know everything. No one knows everything. What are some career opportunities or different career opportunities in data science, and what do you think the emerging fields are? What are you guys most excited about? Dami?
Oh, I was just smiling, but I could answer. I don't know. This is what brought me into the field in the first place. I am looking to when, international organizations are going to actually take data science seriously, taking data from developing countries and trying to improve or try to use it for economic growth and development. That's kind of what I'm excited about. I don't think there's any field that you wouldn't need data science. I think in the next couple of years, some companies haven't figured it out yet, or some industries haven't figured it out yet, but I think it's something that will be present in almost every industry in the next couple of years. But on a larger scale, I'm just excited, now economists are beginning to use it, using machine learning to solve problems and, create new policies and stuff. So that's kind of what I'm excited about.
What about specific to Atlanta?
Specific, I'm from Nigeria.
Sorry, kind of. What do you see as some emerging data science tracks in Atlanta?
Honestly, I don't have an answer to that.
You don't have to know everything.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of rare of data scientist opportunity in Atlanta. I know a lot in like Boston, in New Jersey, in New York, San Francisco, Seattle. Okay, the story is my wife is she's a biochemist, and she is learning data science, taking some online degree. We are thinking to move to other city because she has some difficulty finding a job, and that's why I say in Atlanta, I would say some IT company in the downtown or the Alpharetta areas. It's kind of rare.
No, I don't think it's that rare. I think data science is growing in every city, and I think there's a lot of civic opportunities that are growing in Atlanta. City planning data.
I'm not going to like discourage people, but the thing is, you yeah, well.
If there's any opportunity, it's in this industry.
There is always
anywhere.
Opportunity, but keep in your mind, there is a data science job, because many people, they are looking for data science, but not looking really at data scientists. And that is one of my frustration so far. I'm not looking for changing a job, but when I start looking for a job in Atlanta, 80% of the data science job, they are not really doing data science. So they are kind of data analyst. So I'll say you always can find opportunity, and based what industry, I don't know, IT. I know a couple of healthcare companies over there.
It's in every industry. No?
Yeah.
Data science.
It's in healthcare, it's in digital marketing.
It's in civic duties, it's in philanthropic. It's data applies to every industry.
I know people that work in LexisNexis and some insurance company.
I've never heard of data science being in IT.
They are data scientists.
Okay,
yeah.
Tony, you.
What was the question?
All right.
I try and do these things as fresh as I can.
We want to talk about emerging spaces in data science, specific to Atlanta, but throughout the industry. Or the industry application across industries.
Sure. It's really awesome to be in the 5th district. Anybody? Anybody? Come on. I mean, companies are moving here. DigitalOcean's moving here. Honeywell's going to hire 750 people in the next 5 years. SwiftStack's here. OpenStack's here. AT&T is here. Startups are here. Tech All-Stars is on the 7th floor of here. Like, this is the friggin' place to be. When it comes to like other ecosystems as far as data science goes, and I've been in other cities for the past couple of years, and part of my exuberance with this is the PyData organization that we started. PyData is is an organization that's focused on open code for better science and doing better data science. And in a matter of 10 months, we became the 6th largest PyData meetup in the world out of 40. And I mean, we're just behind Chicago, we're just behind Amsterdam, we're aligned with Austin and Los Angeles. Sure, San Francisco and New York are really exceptional cases. But like, as far as a burgeoning city goes, a tech city goes, we've got Georgia State, we've got Georgia Tech, we've got Emory. We have talent here, and we have companies that are staying here. In the past, companies moved away from here, and now they're staying here. So what I'm excited about is Atlanta. Atlanta is burgeoning right now. This is the only safe haven for an alternative lifestyle in the Southeast region. Where in California, you can move along the coast, and in the Northeast, you can stay within that whole corridor. But this is a place for diversity and a place for innovation, and it's happening right now. And if you're not hearing about what's going on, it's not because you're looking at the wrong websites, it's because you're talking to the wrong folks. This is an all hands on deck kind of thing. And the thing that I'm excited about for data science is the burgeoning community, the burgeoning subculture of intellectuals and capable people who are just looking to help the world with their skills. That's what's exciting to me about data science in the industry.
And there's a lot of industries that I think have been just pretty slow to take to more emerging trends, like healthcare and nonprofits and civic stuff. And what's really fascinating now is they're very quickly taking to data and recognizing the value in data and the need for applying data to their efforts, and it's game changing. And to be a part of that is so powerful and so exciting. And
well, even the intent of Atlanta right now with the Atlanta Regional Commission and the Atlanta Chamber Metro and all that kind of stuff, they are focused on using data to make the city better. And in a city that has a multi-county problem, that has a constituency problem, that has a gerrymandering problem, data science is going to help some stuff. So be excited. There are jobs coming along the way, and if there aren't jobs, there are tasks along the way that are going to be really fulfilling.
There's a lot of hackathons associated with civics at the moment, including some for, I think they mentioned, somebody mentioned earlier, some stuff about human rights abuses, but we've also got the Marta hackathon coming up, stuff like that. Goodie Hack. There's just lots of opportunities. That's where the volunteering can segue into jobs, potentially. So that's why getting involved, you'll learn more about the underbelly of Atlanta in terms of the stuff that's not corporate. I mean, corporate's one thing, and that could be a good thing too for what you're interested in, but there is so much opportunity for small groups of people or individuals to do consulting or to be involved sort of on the side in projects that could get you the kind of experience that will eventually turn into a job or a career through working with other groups. And it isn't obvious, as Tony has said. It's very much not obvious, and which is exactly why I'm espousing you go to these meetups and meet people and actually learn firsthand. That's why it's all hands on deck. That's why it's something that's changing right now, and you won't see it reported on websites. You'll see it by meeting people and realizing that people are desperate for somebody who knows something about what to do with their data, and you can just pick up bits of work, just helping out, getting involved, and just see where it takes you. It's amazing. You just have to have a little confidence, but also just be very aware and forthcoming to communicate and get involved in the community.
And that's your side hustle. It's a MARTA hackathon, or it's working with the Atlanta Police Department.
Right. I mean, people come to these meetups and they hook up with a group and they say, great, I'll be on your mailing list, let me know if you have an opportunity, and the next thing you know, they're sort of, interning with them, or they're doing some other kind of work that's on their resume, and that counts for something. If you can show off what you did in some way, that totally counts on your resume, and they're doing something in Atlanta for Atlantans or wider. So yeah, it's terrific.
And what I've learned is when you are really passionate about learning about something, or you're really curious about a certain field, and you meet someone that's really important in that field but also really passionate about it, they're very quick to share whatever they can with you. And that's been eye-opening for me, is that, ironically enough, the person at sort of the top of the chain is the person that's most eager to share their wisdom and spread their knowledge, because they love it so much. And so I think these interest groups are really particularly valuable for someone trying to break into this field, because you get access to the best people in that industry, and they just so happen to love that more than anyone else. And they're more passionate about it, and they're going to stay after a meetup and talk with you about it for 2.5 hours, and then go get drinks with you after that, because they're so passionate about what they love and passionate about spreading what they love.
Sorry? Is the Marta hackathon is related to data science?
I think it's its own thing, right? The Marta hackathon?
Yeah.
ARC? Is it
combination of
coding?
There's a lot of software development.
They've already had one, and I think that there are some results that are up online. This will be the second part in the series. So, yeah, you can go and check out.
You can go with your idea. People that went to the first one don't necessarily have to be in the second one, but you could keep progressing.
Tony mentioned this too in passing. There's a huge educational opportunity here too. So if you have educational backgrounds or you think you might want to get into teaching, the local universities, especially the smaller ones, I used to teach at Agnes Scott for a little while, just as one of my side hustles. There's a lot of groups looking for help in bringing this to the next generation, and they don't know where to look. So, if you've got teaching, TA experience and stuff like that, or you've ever taught some kind of class, that's the sort of thing you can promote. They need help teaching. I used to teach here a little bit too. There's a lot of groups of people who, because they're thirsty for the education to pass on, and there's lots of opportunities. I think Morehouse and some other smaller colleges, slightly smaller colleges than the really big ones here, are particularly eager to get involved in data science in some way. So that's another aspect.
And the teaching aspect of data science is a part that you have to recognize. At the moment that you're communicating your work and your efforts to other people, you're teaching. So you have to recognize how awesome it is to learn and how exciting your brain responds to learning, and be able to create that same feeling in other people. So finding a teaching element or a social good element or an outreach element that helps you educate other people where you're talking about data. Maybe you're not being specifically technical, but learning to talk to data to normal folks and other people will really benefit your careers moving forward.
And while we're shamelessly plugging, Data Science Atlanta is the biggest data science meetup group in the Southeast. And we are always looking for volunteers and members. And we just posted an event for March 7th with Data Robot, a really cool company leveraging machine learning. And we'll hopefully get something on the calendar even before then. But
they're at the top of Kaggle.
Like, they're number 68 or something in the internationally. So, go to Data Science Atlanta and you will find the smartest person in the room is going to be the person that will spend the most time talking to you after the meetup. So go straight to the source. Like, don't get caught up and don't get paralyzed in this process of learning too many languages or becoming a unicorn. Find a good mentor. Show them that you want to learn.
Yeah, mentorship is very important. I think if you have a chance, join some hackathon. I believe me, if you spend a day working with a team of people and learn some experience from other senior data scientists, it's way more than you study 6 months online or reading textbook or journals. It's a lot of things. It's very hard to catch if you just do it by yourself. So do a real project and work with people. And there's if you have a mentor, and that would be fantastic. Because if someone can really teach you this by doing something, that is a very, very valuable chance.
Thank you, guys. Tonight's been great. I'm going to open up the floor. We've got about 10 minutes for questions.
You guys talked a lot about when you get your outcomes and results, how do you put a risk and uncertainty model around it? It's not perfect, right? You're not going to get your predictions correct. So how do you quantify the risk of the output you create?
And if you guys can repeat the question being asked before you give the response.
Asking about how do we quantify the risk involved in the deliverables, and it's going to be super dependent on who the audience is. You have to trust yourself. You have to be able to believe in yourself that you've done a good job for the purpose. You have to understand the purpose well enough, because you're going to be the best and possibly the only person ultimately who really knows what risk was taken. And you can only pass on so much understanding about that risk to some other person, be it your boss or a peer. You've got to be able to own that risk yourself, and then you can try to convey something about it. But again, it's very context dependent. I mean, you might talk about error bars or validation checks that you did, but you'll never think of everything, and you might make a mistake still. And it might not matter. You know, also thinking about to what degree would it matter if I'd made a mistake by some number of percentage points or whatever on some metric. You know, to go through the process of looking at the worst case scenario, you know, if I screwed up by this much, what difference would it really make to what they're going to do with the data? It's all about the application, right? It's all about what you're going to do with it. So you have to just bear those things in mind, and then you just have to deliver something that's appropriate for the audience. Because as you go further up the chain, they care less and less about those uncertainty measures. And it's only the people at the very bottom who end up knowing anything about what risk was actually taken. The people who go away and talk about the data just talk about the data as if it was truth. And it's your own personal trust.
So you bring up an interesting point. So how do you prevent a housing bubble crisis? Because you might end up creating one, right? I mean, if the risk is not appropriately passed.
Right. Well, that's the sharing and communication that ensures that you're not the only person who's got eyes on what you're doing, and that you're not too protective of your work, that you need to pretend that you're the only expert in it or the only person who's allowed to see any possible flaws. That's what creates the housing bubble. And I mentioned that earlier, I think, is that if you share that openly and early, and you make sure you work with a group of people who are also buying into that way of working, then that is much less likely to happen.
So actually, a follow-up on that, the Nate Silver, who's the best data scientist in our country, I mean, probably, but he's been recently scrutinized for his election predictions. And I heard some data scientists at Johns Hopkins, they've been legally sued for their cancer findings that are not properly. So what, like, basically job-wise, is there any legally sued?
Yeah, it can be, yeah. That absolutely can be.
This is less about the legal implications could come. Most companies are going to have barriers around the legal implications. If you start tinkering around with open data, make sure that you're aware of the terms and conditions of that data. That's the only way that you can largely get in trouble. Sorry, what was the where did we start at with it? This is a very difficult question. The legal part around this. I encourage you to think about the human implications of your work before you think about the legal implications. If the human implications of what you do are substantial, then you can imagine incurring a legal problem. But remember, like, this data is usually about people. It's cell phone devices, it's marketing data, it's advertising data, it's buying shit data, it's selling shit data. Like, these things affect people. So this is, before the legal part, be aware of the human part of what you do and the implications. Yeah.
I think if you're a data scientist, probably in your company, you are probably one or two of the data science. So nobody know more about data science than you. And you can really easily fool people. You can really easily develop a model with 95% accuracy. Very easy, trust me. But so what? This you cannot just commercialize it, because let's say you overfeed your model and your boss doesn't know it. You show it, 95%, let's commercialize it. But one day, if this model is going to make diagnosis on patients, then making trouble. So that's your responsibility to always challenge yourself. Okay, is this really a good thing and nothing really suspicious behind that? Your job is going to challenge yourself. If you have to improve it, and also you have to challenge that.
Any other questions?
Yeah. So looking at the diagram, I guess there aren't very many data science degrees or certifications and whatnot. In Karate Kid, remember how there was a component of like sand this, paint that, and then you bring it all together?
Wipe off.
Yeah, wax on,
wax on. Wax on.
And a person may have these particular skills, like a programming background. Like I have a programming and BA background, so I get my domain expertise by interviewing and whatnot. And I'm fairly strong in that. How does one convince an employer that I can do this job for you for money?
I think you need to have a project, have something that you can show. I think that's the best way to convince someone. These projects that we've been talking about, yes, you have that programming background, which is great. I didn't have that. But the best way to show that you can do something is to show the work that you've done.
So would that be like GitHub?
I think for data science, you should have a GitHub account just to show the work that I think that's the best way to display what you're doing. Put a link on it on your LinkedIn or whatever, tell people to visit it or, and be active on it. Just don't have a GitHub account that is like, nothing's going on.
So, I mean, is that something that you guys as hiring managers might say, okay, I'm going to click through this guy's GitHub repos, I'm going to look at his Medium blog posts, I'm going to spin out, do you guys have the energy to do that?
If you send us the right stuff, if you make it hard to discover, we ain't going to look at it. But if it's easy to discover and your story's compelling and the first paragraph hooks me, yeah, man, right? Like, it's like listening to a new song, right? Like, I'm going to work with you for the next year or two, and like, I want to know if I want to hear that song every day. And like, when you come in, I want you to be prepared. I want you to have made a video. I want you to have made blog posts. And I don't want to see these things. Like, I don't want to see the crap. I want to see your favorite things. But ultimately, I want to see you as a storyteller, right? Like, I'm hiring you as a data scientist to tell the tribal culture of my company. And if you can't tell a story right, if you can't tell your story right, then I don't know where I'm going to go from that. So being able to tell stories is really the thing that I'm looking for in some of these interviews personally.
I think we're about out of time. One more question?
So what do you recommend some good visualization tools, like Tableau?
And repeat the question, please.
Good visualization tools.
Tableau?
Tableau.
Did you call it Tableau?
No.
Oh my God.
I work for a data visualization company. I can't. Juice Analytics.
I run Tableau here at GA. I think it's really powerful. The thing is, you might have to pay for actual Tableau itself, but you could use Tableau Public. Anything else similar to Tableau would be, I don't know, Plotly, but you need to put some code down. Also D3, but you need some JavaScript. You need to know some JavaScript to be able to do that. But Tableau is really good. Some people don't like it because it's point and click, but I don't have a problem with that.
You guys, thank you for tonight. I think yes. You.
Oh boy. There's no difference. You need to know. Automated data science. Think in a different pot.
Okay, so I think we're all open to sharing our email with you for further questions, and if the panelists are willing to stay after for a couple questions, I'm sure they could do so as well. I know Amelia has one more announcement before you guys leave.
Sorry, I know you're really excited about leaving. On Saturday, we're doing a really special event called Career Lab. For those of you who are trying to find your niche in tech or have friends who are kind of in that same place, we're doing a day-long event on Saturday for those who want to find their niche or their next challenge. So we're starting out with the editor-in-chief, Kai Kotovic. She's giving an overview of the tech scene in Atlanta. We're doing a career aptitude test and then a panel similar to this, but with different careers within technology. So everything from data science to digital marketing to user experience and product management. And then we'll do 3 breakout sessions. The first 2 are focused on the different subjects. And you can get your hands dirty and learn a little bit more about what it's like to be a data scientist or what a user experience designer does. And the finale of it is you get to either work on your resume or you can have someone help you set up a GitHub, as well as help with your interviewing 101, and then we'll do a happy hour. So you can find out more information about that event and all of our other events online, and I do hope to see y'all again on campus soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.